Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you how to make Pandora-like beads out of paper. So this is what your typical Pandora style bead looks like. Well, not really that typical. I made it at the torch and I'm not an experienced lamp worker, but these are some I made out of glass. And I bought some bead cores to put in these beads and they were really fun to make and all, but then I thought, you know, I would like to have something a little bit lighter that I could add to my bracelets and still fill up the bracelet, but not have it weigh 25 pounds. So I decided to play with some paper, and these I made from old book pages. They were okay, but it wasn't exactly what I was going for. This one I liked a little bit better, but still it wasn't quite thick enough. So then I came up with a system of using a couple strips of paper and the bead core, and I think I've got a pretty good replication of a Pandora bead. Of course, it's not glass and it's not perfect, but I think that's part of the charm because it's paper and it's fun and it's inexpensive, and I think anyone can try this with supplies you have at home. The first thing you're going to need are some strips of paper. I'm going to zoom out here, and what I have are some 1/2" strips of paper that I've pre-cut, and then I have some 5/8" strips of paper, and actually this one's a little bit big, so I'm going to trim it down. Just trim it down a little bit. You basically just need your second strip of paper to be like 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch larger than the base of your bead. You want it to be, because we need a little bit of room when we cut our taper. So I'm just going to slice that excess off and set that aside. And then to make our taper, what we're going to do, let me zoom out just a little bit more so you can see what I'm doing all the way. I'm going to put my ruler at an angle, and I am going to go about 1/16 of an inch away from each edge. So I'm cutting corner to corner, but I'm not going directly to the edge. I'm leaving 1/16 of an inch on each end, and that's going to keep my paper from slipping when I cut it with the X-Acto knife. I know they make fancy dies to cut your pattern paper, to cut your paper bead strips, but I don't need that. This is going to work just fine. Alright, so you get 2 tapers from each one of those pieces. Now I know you're probably thinking, well, Lindsay, if I do that, then look, I'm going to have a lopsided bead, because look at that. That's not gonna work out right. But look at this. You can just center up your strip of paper on your grid like that, and then you'll see that if you just adjust the angle here of the bottom of your paper, then it's going to roll up just fine. So just kind of line it up, and you don't even need to do that. You can account for that when you go to make your bead, but if you have a problem with that, then that will work just fine. So then you want to take one of your strips and make sure it matches that pretty well. That is a pretty good match. This one's even better. And then the side, you need a knitting needle. You need a knitting needle to wrap on. I find a size 9 works really well for a thicker scrapbook paper. If you're doing magazines or book pages, you're going to want to use a number 10. And I'll show you how using the same needle you can still get vastly different size holes. So you have to keep an eye on that, otherwise your bead cores won't fit. And you may have different size bead cores. You may be using sewing eyelets, so you want to make sure that that it's going to fit whatever you're working on. Let me zoom in there. Tip up a little bit because I'm reaching far away. There we go. We're cooking with gas now. Yes, dear, we are. The main lingo. All right, and I just squeezed in my ends, so you know, don't fret if you're going misaligned, it's messing up. Now at this point I'm just gonna grab my bead core and see if that's gonna fit. I can even let it out a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. I can see that it's not pushing my paper. That's fitting really well, so I could pull that out. It's like a perfect fit right there, so I want to make sure I don't pull that any tighter. And then I'm going to glue that flap down. This is the bottom part of our bead that's going to be, a lot of it's going to be hidden by the bead core. Alright, now while I'm just holding that for a second to dry, I want to show you these 3 beads that don't have cores in them, because look at this. Look how big that one is. I did use a number 10 needle, but I got really loose with it, and that's way too big for any of the bead cores. This one, on the other hand, is just about perfect. That was done on the number 9, and I I just, you know, pulled it tight. But this one was also done on the 9, but I pulled it too tight. And look at that, I've got a teeny hole that I could probably put a scrapbooking eyelet in if I wanted to. So, you know, you can use those beads on other projects. That's not a big deal, but just to help you avoid those problems. So now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of glue next to the seam that the other paper made when we glued it down. You don't want to put too much glue because it really doesn't take a lot to glue the paper. Now here you do need to be careful. You do want to make sure that that when you start wrapping that you keep it centered up, because it's a little harder to fix at this stage. So taking a little extra time here will save you a lot of time down the road. So you just slow and steady roll it up and make sure that you are centering the paper on the bead as you go. It's pretty easy though, because we started off with a pretty good bead to work with. Now I'm going to be using ultra thick embossing enamel, which is, it's just a chunky embossing powder to coat my beads, but if you don't have that or you don't want to bother using a heat gun, several coats of Mod Podge will work pretty well. You could, you know, put some glossy accents on there. You could use a few coats of fingernail polish, clear fingernail polish, you know, whatever you have. I do think the ultra thick embossing enamel is the quickest, easiest, and nicest looking way to get this effect, but if you don't want to deal with that or you don't have it, there certainly are substitutions that you can do. Some people even use resin, but I think that would take quite a while to dry. I don't really want to. I use resin, but I really don't even want to go there. Okay, so what we have here is our bead that's ready to be glazed. So what you want to do is take a toothpick or skewer or something you can stick in there, and you want to get your embossing ink pad and just roll it over there a few times so you coat it really well with embossing ink. That's going to help the powder stick. Alright, now I keep a little dessert spoon in my embossing powder, and then I can just sprinkle it on there. Try to keep it out of the hole, because that will make your hole smaller and your bead cores might not fit in there when you're done if you clog that up. Alright, I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to heat this with the heat gun, and I'll be right back. I'm actually going to heat this, put it on another layer, and heat it again. So hold on a moment while I do that. Here I am with 2 layers of embossing enamel here on my bead, and I've let it cool so it doesn't get sticky. So, you know, you do have to let it cool before you touch it. You could burn yourself, or you could actually just end up damaging the surface. If that happens, then just heat it up again and it will remelt it. Alright, so for putting the bead core in, now it might be tight enough that you could just put it in there and it would hold on its own, but I recommend putting some glue, just some white glue here, because that's going to seal the ends of your bead in, and it can actually help protect the middle of the bead as well. So just a nice coating of white glue on each end. You also want a paper towel handy so that when you push the ends in, you can kind of wipe away any extra glue that's there. I'm gently just placing the 2 ends in, and then I'll grab it with a paper towel to really secure it in there. So the paper towel is catching any of the bead squish, the glue squish coming out the sides. Alright, now at this point I'm going to check it for any paper that's been damaged on the inside. Looks pretty good. If I did have any like bits of paper sticking out, I could go in there with a file, just a jewelry file, and go in and file all the way around and get it nice and neat. And that's all there is to it. So you have a beautiful handmade bead. It's paper, but it looks like it could be glass. Either way, it's a delightful addition to any Pandora bracelet or necklace. And just think, if you are someone that collects the Pandora charms, wouldn't it be nice to have some that your children have made? It's just a wonderful something new and different to do with your pattern paper scraps. So there you have it. I hope you try it. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. Give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up. How to do that? Thumbs up. Is that right set up for you? Give me a thumbs up if you like the video, and subscribe so you don't miss any others. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.